Hello, I am Aaron Covington,
And I'm Tony Rag,
and we are.
40 Black and Dad.
All right, Tony, another week of daddy,
Yeah, it's ongoing.
parenting.
It doesn't
Yeah.
stop. It does not stop.
Um, how's your week been?
Good. So, son's on spring break. I mean, he's in kindergarten or daycare, so it's spring break. He just is home for the week. So, been on super dad duty. My wife was gone for a couple days for a work trip, so it's just me and him, and I'm realizing that he is becoming more and more of a handful as he is getting closer and closer to three. Yeah, it's been a lot, but it's been fun. A lot of bonding time for sure. How's your week
So,
been?
so when it just hits you harder when you're doing it by yourself,
By yourself?
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like more exhausting,
And I've
more,
had him, yeah, I've had him a few times
right.
while she's
Yeah.
gone on different trips. So like I had him when he was like 6 months, then like a year, then right at two, then now he's almost three. And like I was telling my wife when she got back yesterday, it's like there's a difference between when he was two and then when he was almost three. Like he's talking more, but he's also more independent. So like there's a lot of positive to it, but it's just like he's always moving. He's super rambunctious. Like he's now like taking less naps too. So it's like you actually have to
Mm,
entertain him more. Like he's not sleeping
yeah.
for 10 hours a day. He's sleeping for like five. And then it's like, oh, are we playing? Is it wake up time?
Yeah.
Yeah, like okay.
But then he sleeps at
Yeah.
night,
So
like through the night.
yeah, he's exactly. Yeah, he sleeps at night normally, but then like he tries not to take naps every day. And then we like at 2 o'clock, like I just gotta put you down, man. Like I feel like I'd be a bad parent if if you don't take a nap, at least just lay down, close your eyes for a few minutes, so
Right.
CPS doesn't come after me. But yeah, just
You got to
just
play.
more energy.
You got to plead with them to take a nap
Yeah, it doesn't
until
work.
they're
It's
like
like just close your
teenagers.
eyes, man.
Yeah. Until
Just
they're like
close your eyes. Like,
teenagers. Once a person
do you want
hits
some
like
sugar?
once a person hits like 13, then they want to take their own naps. But anybody that's like single digits, anybody in the single digits is like refusing to take naps. But you spend most of your
Yeah.
life loving naps.
Oh, I love naps. I take
You
naps
know,
right now. If we just a 3 minute nap podcast, we'd be number one in the world.
as soon as you hit double digits, 10, I would say, would just make it simple. As soon as you hit double digits, you're like, naps are great.
Take a nap
Why did I
right now.
spend the last 9 years fighting God's gift to humanity, the nap, the most
I feel
joyous,
like I
the
feel
most
like
joyous
it's
part of
FOMO. Like
humanity. Yeah, FOMO for
a
sure.
kid, a kid, especially when you're young, it's like I don't know what happens when I go to sleep, but I don't want to miss it. So kids always seem to get, and then at 10, you're like, nothing's really happening in my house. I'm just gonna lay down. And at 40, you're like, I know nothing's happening. I'm gonna sleep all day.
Yeah, I don't care what's happening. That actually brings us to our
Exactly.
topic of the day, which I'll come back to. My week has been fine. Uh, my daughter is now reaching out and grabbing things. So at 3.5 months or so, she's really interested in different
Okay.
fabrics and just touching them and feeling them. And the play kit we have has crinkly paper. She doesn't
Mm,
care too much about the sound yet, although she's sensitive to sounds. But the feel of the paper and maybe that she's making the sound, these are things that are now exciting to her
yeah.
when you're
She's
about three and a half, four
manipulating
months.
her world.
Right.
Yeah. That's
She's
really cool.
she's still very shy about grabbing things, but I'll just like lean her closer and then she'll start reaching her hand out and then she'll kind of rub it softly on the thing, whatever it is. I'm like, just grab it. You want to touch it. You want to feel what that fabric is like or what that texture is like. So uh different clothes, and different
Oh yeah.
bags, paper
Okay.
bags, plastic bags. We have like some shopper bags, canvas bags. These are the things that are occupying her time right now.
Very cool. You
Yeah.
had mentioned clothes, so I never asked you. Has she been growing quite like you're in like different clothes, like from 0 to 3 months, to 6 to 12 months? Has she been growing, out of clothes so quickly that you can't keep up with it?
Not so quickly. Like most of her 0 to 3 months, she still fits in, but it's kind of like your pants, where you get
Yeah.
them. and like they fit and they fit for a long time. But if you buy that size again, they don't fit
Yeah,
because you just
I
been
feel you.
wearing them and stretching them out, you know? So her 0 to 3 month
Before-
stuff still fits, but she is now in the 3 to 6 month for a lot of other things. But some of those things are too big. So she's in between. Even though she's twice the size in weight, she's over twice the size of what she
Nice.
came home at. Yeah.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah, that's one thing I remember very distinctly. And I was up in the garage earlier when we were cleaning, and I saw like just bags and bags of clothes. I'm like, oh my God, I forgot all these clothes that we had from, infant to 0 to 3, then 3 to 6, then all the way up. So it'll go by quickly, and yeah, they never stop growing, which is a good thing. That means you're feeding them properly.
No, I'm definitely looking forward to her growing more. So yeah, the topic this week is we're just going to address a few misconceptions. Not we can't hit all of them, so we'll maybe do more episodes of this. But there were some things that just came to mind that I wanted to talk about. Starting with, see, we were talking about Legend being 2 to 3. What was the misconception there that I was going to get into? We'll circle back
It's a
to it.
good child. Oh yeah, no,
What? That he's a good.
that's not true.
Yeah. Well, we did talk the last week about people asking about sleep, and people say so many things. They're like so many platitudes and cliches about parenting, and you're just like, I don't disagree with you. I'm not saying you're wrong. It's just I'm just trying to get through the day. You know, I don't need every like, oh,
Exactly.
things get better or cherish these moments. Like I'm trying to.
I'm just tired.
Just
It
tired.
goes back to sleep. And I
I'm
mean,
not
like
I'm
like
not
you
not
said,
cherishing a moment because I'm tired or because I'm like this, you know, it's like this is part of cherishing it, but I'm just not going to be Magic Johnson every second, you know, with the smile and like, yeah. Sometimes you're just human and you get highs and lows and energy depletion, you know.
yeah, and that's what pictures and videos are for. Like you can cherish the moments later on. Like right now in the moment, it's tough, and just like anything in life, like it's hard to cherish and appreciate in the moment until that moment's gone. And like you say like your daughter's 3 months. Like when she becomes a year, you'll be looking at the 3 months like oh my gosh, it was so different. And for my son, he'll be 3 and now 2 months. It's we look back at when he was 1 years old, and we were actually just looking at it when he was 6 months old. It's like, oh, then you start to kind of cherish and like appreciate those times because they've changed so much. When you're
Right.
in it, it's just hard to appreciate, especially if it's your first time, because you just don't know what to expect. And that's also kind of one of the misconceptions we're talking about. Is like you just also just don't know what to expect. Like
Right.
you don't know what you don't know is going to happen tomorrow. So it's hard to be like, oh, I love happening, what's happening today because tomorrow it could be something totally different.
Yeah.
So it's
And
one
you
of
have
those
to,
things that
yeah, you have to be in the moment and you have to be planning ahead, you know. Like you said, you don't know what's happening tomorrow, or every new thing is a new challenge or a new topic to debate, you know. How much did
and
she
you don't
eat? How
have
much
to.
did she throw up? How much did she sleep, you know?
And that's one of the things, kind of talking about misconceptions is like you feel like, especially as a dad, and again, I don't know if this is for everybody, but for myself specifically, like I felt in the beginning I had to like always have the answer to everything. Like my wife would be like, "Oh, what's going on here?" I'm like, "Oh, well, this, and this," but like I might not be
Right.
right. I don't know. So I think one of the misconceptions, especially as a first time father, is like you just don't know what you don't know, and that's okay. Like you're not a bad dad or a neglectful parent or whatever if you don't have the answer to everything. Because one thing for sure, like me and my wife were talking about this yesterday, the doctors have no idea sometimes too, but they have
Yeah.
best guess estimates, and they're like, well, you said this, they could be this, and this. Let's just knock down these things. So
Right.
one of the misconceptions, especially in the beginning, is like you don't have to have all the answers. Like you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be there, and you have to do your best. And as probably the poster child for like the least experienced dad of all time being myself, like I've never held a baby, I never experienced a baby or interacted with a baby until I held my own son. And then from there, it kind of just came natural for some of the things to do. So you don't have to have all the answers beforehand, but you just learn as you go, and every child's different.
100%. The first well, not the first, we just talked about a couple, but a big misconception I wanted to talk about was, so I hear this joke a lot, and people don't know I've done a bit of stand up, whatnot. You hear this joke a lot, like, oh, my friends or whoever told me they're trying to get pregnant. Like, thanks for telling me you're having a lot of sex. That is not what trying to get pregnant means.
Not.
And guys really make this joke more than women, or think about it like this, of like, trying to get pregnant, that means sex. Sex is involved, but
Yes,
trying to get
it's a
pregnant
part.
is about timing, calculation, patience,
It's definitely
all
more
of these
medical
kind of
than most
things.
people think. It's definitely more of a medical experience. Okay, we gotta do it right now. It's 2:02. Let's go. Like, okay.
Not only that, you get all the superstitions involved, where it's like,
Yeah,
okay, then you have sex, and you got to hold your legs up in the air for 8 minutes.
it has to be hot then really cold. Yeah,
If it depends if you want a boy or a girl, that's how
it's
the temperature you need it at.
yeah.
Um,
The sheet on top or the bottom. Yeah,
but you end up like maybe not even learning, just kind of falling into a pattern around an ovulation schedule,
exactly.
and then your partner, the young lady, your wife, girlfriend, whatever the case may be, is doing even more. They have the apps. Usually now it's all one with the apps that's tracking when your period is, when your ovulation cycle is, your temperature. You have to take your temperature like every day, just about, or however often the app asks
Yeah.
you to do that. So there's a lot of almost like bookkeeping, administrative work that needs to be done if you're
And
trying to get pregnant.
yeah, and also diet too. Like, some women, because you
Diet,
have to take, like, they're taking prenatal pill. Like, I know women, taking the prenatal pills, super far in advance, because you want to have healthy bones and all the things that come with those pills, and what you're eating obviously is very important. Some women have low blood pressure or low blood, all these different things that
a
come
lot of
into
different
play
things.
that
Yeah,
women are prepping for. Again, guys just have to just kind of show up that day and perform, but it's one of those things, like, there's a lot of prep that goes into trying to get pregnant past just like we're just having a lot of sex, because that's not necessarily the case. You could have sex, once or twice, in one day, and then not do it again for another 28 days, or whatever it is. So it's
right.
not necessarily abundance of more sex. It's just more planned and more precise intercourse.
Totally. Because you have to be ready when it's time within that
Exactly.
window, which is usually maybe a couple weeks before the period or so. The app will tell you exactly when it is, 10 days, 14 days. And that's like your 3 to 5 day window.
Yeah.
And then the other misconception is that, okay, you ejaculate and your sperm is in there like Michael Phelps searching for the egg. But sperm is not that active. The egg and the
It's not.
sperm meet because the egg is traveling, the egg is traveling also. So it's a
Yeah.
much more um, cooperative process, even inside a woman's body. And your sperm are not individuals fighting, they're clusters. Sperm move faster when they're together, like a team. So when they get separated and individually, those sperm die. So there is no
Yeah.
like that misconception of like, yeah, my one strong swimmer. No, it's a team of like 12 of them pushing each other, like more like bicyclists when they draft. That's really more what's happening as they like,
Just
and
keep swimming. Just keep swimming.
just, and they're not moving like little fish. They're moving like, well, they are moving like fish, but fish on land. Like if you take a fish out of water and put it on land and they just spat, flapping around, that's
We
much
should
a
definitely post
more
a
accurate
graphic.
depiction. Yeah.
We should probably post a graphic of that, just so everybody has a perfect visual of that.
So it's funny how those narratives are so like male dominated. Like my one strong swimmer, my sperm gets in there and does the job. And it's like, no, they kind of just flail about and slowly like millimeter by millimeter move,
Yeah.
and it's about 2 or 3 days that they can live in there, I think, with the hopes of connecting one with an egg.
Yeah.
That
It
tears
is,
down
and
the
it's
whole
still
male
a
myth.
miracle. Yeah.
That makes it even
Very
more of a miracle. It makes it even more of a
yeah,
miracle.
miracle for
So
sure.
I definitely want, guys that are thinking about having kids, if you listen to this, or if you got pregnant and didn't have to do a lot of planning to understand that it's a much more complicated process. There's just a lot going on, and you don't just do your business and leave. Or maybe you do, but that's not just what's happening. And the business that you
Mhm.
left behind is doing a lot more work than you think, where it's not some like gladiator struggle to the finish line. It's like a team effort, you know,
It's a relay race.
100% a relay race. What
Yeah.
other misconceptions do we have we can talk about here? I know you
I mean,
looked up a couple, or you had a couple on your mind.
well, yeah. So, like I said, the ones I was thinking about just kind of from the male side are definitely you don't have to be perfect, but then also like I think we kind of brought this we brought up a little bit before kind of your dead self care is like you still need like a misconception is like if you're not if you're not tired, you're not doing it right. Like if you're not 100% like drained all the time, then you're not there enough for your kid and you feel bad that, you're not being an active participant, but there has to be times as a father and even as a mother that you need to have that time away and you both need to have your time to recharge your battery. So I think a misconception is like if you're not tired, your baby's you're neglecting your baby and you're not doing the things that your baby needs. But I think that's a false misconception of like you also need to have self-care for yourself. You need to also be able to take care of yourself, especially from the women's side too, because if she's not resting enough, if she's not, taking care of herself, she's not going to be able to produce enough milk, or she's not going to be able to, you know, hold the baby or have the energy to, care for the baby that it needs to, that she needs. So I think that's for men and women as well. I think that's another one that you hear a lot, like, oh, I'm always tired, but I have to do this. Like, no, you can also take a little bit of a rest. Like, it's
Yeah,
okay. You need to
you you, you have to.
have to.
And I think it takes people a while to realize that, and it doesn't really come until you have to have had the baby and gone through a
Yeah.
few weeks, and then you're like, this just isn't gonna work. This isn't sustainable if I don't find a rest, if we don't trade off, we don't get some help if you need it, or whatever people's individual cases may be.
Yeah. And I
100%.
think the last one I had kind of talked about is like, and this is for when your kid's a little bit older, where like you assume everything you say or do for your kid, like at one or two, they're gonna remember for the rest of their life, and you're gonna
This is a
mess
big
them up
one.
early.
Yeah,
This is the big one. Like this is what like because especially now, like because he's two and a half, almost three, and like we're saying a lot of things, and he's remembering things, and but it's like the things that we say to him now, like unless it's just something like that horribly hurts him, like physically and emotionally, like he's not gonna remember a lot of that stuff. So parenting, I think, is more of like a day-to-day marathon versus like a sprint to like the finish where everything you say is going to be etched in stone in their brain.
right.
Like there's going to be times, and this happened already, like with me and my wife, was like you're morally against or for something in the beginning, and you absolutely change that stance like a year later. Like what, we're going to change that. And I
Yeah.
think that's a big misconception is like everything you say or do, your child is going to remember forever, and everything you do is going to form the basis of their personality. Like, no, that's not true. That's not true at all. Like, there's a lot of things that are gonna be forgotten by both you and them, and there's gonna be a lot of things that are gonna change drastically. When we started, we were only giving my son organic avocados from
Hmm.
Trader Joe's, and now he had McDonald's French fries yesterday. And like, are you good? You're good, and a smoothie, like perfect. That like
Yeah.
we're not gonna give him sweets and sugars. He had ice cream for for dinner on Wednesday. Like, okay, like he ate.
Yeah.
Yes, he ate. Check mark. Like he sleep. And when when a child eats good because they sleep good. Like
Yeah.
those are a direct correlation. If they sleep, that
100%.
means they ate enough day. So those are misconceptions. Like you don't have to get it right every day. Like there's going to be changes. There's going to be new information that comes around. It's just
Well,
like these drugs. Everything is like they change their minds all the time. Like, oh, this is good. Oh, this is really bad.
I think what goes along with that is that, okay, think about your own life. Anybody
Yeah.
listening, you, Tony, me, what is your earliest memory? maybe 4 years old. I think mine is
Yeah.
5 or 6, you know?
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what it is. You're not gonna remember. And me and my partner, we were talking about like they're the reason kids can't remember before 4 because it's so embarrassing to be a human. If you think about if you could remember the first 4 years, like of people
Yeah.
changing you, you walking around
Your
with
butt.
poop in your pants all the time, and you can't even keep your food down. You're just spitting up casually all the time. All the things that babies do, if
Crying all the time. Yeah.
you would feel so embarrassed if you just carry those memories around. I know there's people with different disabilities that have different situations,
Hmm.
um, but that aside, the baby living like a baby would be hard for people to reconcile with their reality. I think. I think that's a evolutionary benefit that we don't remember that. And I was talking
Yeah.
to a guy just
PTSD.
yesterday. I mean, you would be crazy trauma if you had to remember, you know, even something um, dads often like would throw the kid in the air and catch him,
Hmm.
and the kids love it. The kids love it, but I don't know that you would love the memory of that. You know, it's just like a feeling, and
Yeah.
kids like it. But if you were 8 and you remember that, you'd be like, "What? Oh, I was thrown in the air!" And
That
like
was
if you had the
unsafe.
capability
Yeah.
to remember
That was
that,
unsafe.
so things that might seem fun would be crazy. I was talking to a guy recently, and he was like, his kids are grown now, I think, but when
Hmm.
his kid was 4, he quit his job and moved, and he had a lot saved up. He was in a good position to really
Hmm.
be there from I think 4 to 8 to be there for his
Okay.
kid, and he was like, turns out I did that, and she barely remembers any of it. It would have been better to do it from 8 to 12, so like
Yeah.
she would really remember that time, and that would have been time and memories we had together. He was like, I remember it, but she only remembers like the last year or last couple of years, and even that not that well. So
That's a
with
good
that,
point.
with that to say is like humans too were always able to overcome.
Hmm.
So let's take the example of like an iPad kid, right? If you have your kid and they're in kindergarten, first grade, and you've been giving them an iPad a lot, and they get into class and they're kind of disruptive, and it's harder for them. It wouldn't take long for you to remove that from the situation and for them to adjust.
It's true.
So I guess the point is that like you think you might be harming your kid, but they can adjust. You can course correct over time, and
Hmm.
you can teach them something different if you feel like you've taught them bad. And like Tony was saying earlier, they're really not going to remember everything from 0 to 3 anyway. So you have plenty of time to instill good practices and behaviors. A lot of stuff at these young ages is just getting through the day, making sure they sleep well, making sure if they're sick, they get healthy, or that they don't get sick as much as you can. And a lot of that not getting sick is for your benefit, you know, because it's
Very
harder to
true.
deal with a sick baby than a, a not sick baby. So
Yeah. They cry more, they don't eat, they throw up, they poop more. Yeah, it's just again, makes your life easier if they're not sick. And then also you get sick too, which it's a domino effect for sure.
cascades,
And
yeah,
yeah, and you had mentioned something, and one thing I had always heard when I first told people I was having I was like, yeah, 0 to 4, you want to be there for them, and those are the times. But those are times for the parents to remember, like you said, like those are our memories that we'll remember because after 4, they change. They're not, they don't want to be around you as much and things like that. But between 0 and 4, they're not going to remember most of those things. Those are
yeah,
your memories. So I think
yeah,
that's kind of it's like you half know the truth. 0 to 4 is important, but it's for your parent because you're never going to get those times back as a parent to have your child who only wants to be around you. Like my son, like he can watch TV all day, but if I turn off that iPad or the TV, all he wants to do is play with me all day. Like it's not like he's
right.
missing the TV. So
It's just
it's
this
like
thing or
you
that
want to
thing. Where are you directing his attention?
exactly. And
Yeah,
he's okay with either one. He's like, well, I can sit here and watch this show, but I prefer to play TV or play toys with you. So it's like those are the memories that the parents create because from 4 to 10 and 10 to 18, like it's a very different interaction because again, you're doing more teaching, you're doing more discipline, you're doing more prepping them for the world. 0 to 4, you're just kind of
You got to
keeping
keep
them
them
alive day to
safe.
day.
Yeah,
Like
keeping them alive
it's
and
keeping them
safe.
safe, but it's in a more confined area because you're like,
Totally.
especially now with COVID, like you're at home more. Like it's not like you're going out to the club or you're not doing a lot of things with the child. Now as you get older and you're starting to do more things with them, you're exposing them to more things that could be dangerous. They're exposing them to more things that you have to explain to them because they don't understand.
Yeah.
When it's earlier, just explaining them, breathing and grabbing things and eating, like the fun
Very
things.
basic.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so it's that misconception I think is where it's more from the parent side, not necessarily from the child side of they're gonna be feeling neglected if you're working a little bit harder. So, but the older they get, obviously, the more they will remember it. So if you're not around when they're 7, they'll definitely remember that. So
The-
it's a balance for
right.
sure.
Right. Just being there, providing safety and comfort, a safe environment. Those are your main things to focus on early. Making sure they eat, and really,
Yeah,
it's really your practice in putting them to sleep. you know, and every kid falls
right.
asleep differently. The last misconception, I think, just time wise to get to, this is a simple one, and it's one I've actually heard from a lot of women in my life, like coworkers or classmates that have gotten pregnant. And this idea, and I've seen a few videos on social media making fun of this too. But a lot of women are like, "Oh, when the baby's here, I'll have time to do things. I'll sleep when the baby sleeps," and that is just. And I only bring this up, and I think we might have talked about this or covered this in different ways on the
Mhm.
pod. But just to remind anybody listening to this, if you know somebody who's pregnant or trying to get pregnant, and they think that post birth they'll have time, they will not. You don't sleep.
They will
Even if you try to sleep when the baby sleeps, one, adults don't sleep in that kind of pattern. Two,
yeah.
when are you going to do anything else? You can't eat when the baby eats because you're feeding the baby. You
Yeah.
can't do like check your emails when the baby's checking its emails. It does not have emails, you know?
Yeah, you have more responsibility than the baby.
You just have more things to do. I'm gonna take out the trash when the baby takes out the trash. That's not how it goes. So just lose. I remember one friend of mine who works in the industry was like, "Yeah, I'm hoping to, after I have the baby, I'll be able to do a lot more editing, and while the baby sleeps, I'll be able to edit." And I was like, this is before I had a kid, and I just knew that that was not correct. I said, no, I don't think you're gonna be working right after you have the baby, especially not editing, which is something that is very time consuming.
And mentally intensive. Like
Exactly.
you there's a lot of yeah. You lose a little bit of that edge when you after you have a baby. Like it just a small part of you just like I just don't got that no more, and it's okay. Like it's just part of life. But yeah, that's definitely a misconception. You're not gonna just be able to continue your regular life in between while the baby sleeps. Like oh, it's fine, he's sleeping. Like no, you're gonna want to eat. You're gonna want to shower. You're gonna. I mean, there's a
especially
lot of things that. Yeah,
especially when the naps are like 20 minutes, 30
exactly.
minutes, you're gonna have that phase, or that might be the norm. We've had that for
Yeah.
a long time, and it's like, yeah, we're not getting anything done in the 30 minutes this kid dozed off.
And also, especially in the beginning, especially for new parents, and for myself and my wife, it's like we were so worried about making sure that the baby woke up. We couldn't feel like we're comfortable to sleep. Like you don't feel
Yeah,
comfortable like sleeping because like okay, I want to make sure he's okay. Like is he good? Okay, is he good? Okay, and then he wakes up like oh thank God. I am tired though. Like
yeah, yeah.
it's just one of those things like there's just so much, especially in the first few months, that you just don't know because it's all new routine. As like we've talked about this, it gets better, phrase and quotes, but you get more comfortable with the child, the situation, the routine, and until it changes, which it changes a lot in the first few years, I can tell you that for sure. But
Yeah.
you just have to get more comfortable with it. But yeah, your life changes, and you have to prioritize things very differently at that point, and baby is number one.
And I think it all does tie around like there's just a lot of parental anxiety. Maybe
Yeah.
we'll talk. Maybe we'll do a separate episode about that, but it also rehashes. I mean, we kind of talk about it in every episode in one way or another, where it's like, oh, if the baby's sleeping, check the monitor. Can they breathe? The head is turned. Is that safe? Is that a comfortable position? And then when they wake up, any noise, you're like, are they okay? I'll be holding the
Yeah.
baby, for instance, and when my partner comes into the room, or if the baby starts crying and she comes in, what happened? I'm like, a baby being a baby. Nothing actually happened.
that's
Nothing
that's
actually
a mom thing.
changed.
Or does that all the time? Yeah, what happened? Nothing. He's just crying. Like he's fine.
Exactly. Nothing changed from quiet to cry, except that this is the exact same position. I haven't moved. She hasn't moved. It's actually the same song. We had the Twinkle Twinkle, same Twinkle Twinkle is playing.
It's
Just
reverse.
just started crying. Is she
My,
hungry?
my wife did that to me now. Yeah,
Yeah.
even
I don't know.
at almost 3 years old. Yeah,
You know,
you
is she
assume she
hungry?
assumed you
Well,
did nothing.
we can try to feed her. I don't know if she's hungry or not, or if she just ate. She's not hungry. Is she tired?
Yeah,
I'm trying to find out. She like just started crying. Wrap
exactly.
her up and put her in the bed, and then she's laying in the bed like just looking straight up, eyes wide open. It's like, okay, so you're not tired, you're not hungry.
So you just cried to cry. You just cried
You just wanted
for
to cry. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
And when
That's
you look
funny.
things
Yeah,
up, when you look it up, there'll be things that say babies might cry for 1 to 2 hours a day, and it may not be that much. They're just giving you numbers, but your baby might just be crying. They just need to like
yeah.
vocalize, I guess. And maybe their body's a little uncomfortable. Maybe they need to do some spit up or burp or something, but it maybe not even be that intense.
Sometimes it's just attention. I mean,
Yeah.
and you start to learn the different cries as they get older. But yeah, sometimes just attention. Or like because if you think about it from a baby's perspective, one day they were in a nice, warm, safe, cozy room, and the next day somebody pulled them out, and then they recognize voices, but they don't recognize faces, so they might just be
Yeah.
crying because they're uncomfortable, they're scared. Like there's a bunch of things, and that's why
Bunch of
when
things.
it comes to parenting, use again comfort, and like you had mentioned earlier, like creating that safe environment. I think that was one of the biggest things I felt like my wife did a really good job with this, like making a very safe space for our son to be able to explore and kind of get outside of his boundaries, because that allowed him to be comfortable in a lot of situations.
Hmm.
What I feel is early on, because he didn't do a lot of crying later on, because he was in situations he understood, and he kind of knew where things were at.
Okay.
He
Well,
knew where. So that was just one thing that was. But again, that was also COVID, when we were all at home, so it was might have been a little bit different because the situation was different. But I feel like that was very. It helped him a lot when it came to being able to verbalize or say what he wanted or didn't want.
yeah, you have to like we have to get into specifics of some of those things that were done in one of these episodes, and maybe share some tips and tricks about what you guys did. That sounds really helpful.
Yeah, for sure. We'll definitely go over that. So specific on creating a safe space, safe environment for kids to explore. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Cool,
Well,
cool. But yeah,
right.
I think
That should
that's
wrap us up for today.
yeah.
It's a good talk.
I agree. I agree. A lot of misconceptions out there. And again, if anybody, has any other misconceptions that they've heard that they want us to talk about or they want us to comment on, let us know. We'll definitely we can do part two, or respond in another
Oh
episode as
yeah.
well.
I definitely meant to say this up top. I'll try getting a better habit of it, but like and subscribe wherever you're
All right.
listening. And follow us on Facebook, 40 Black and Dad on Facebook,
All right.
or you can find us on Instagram. I'm at Bear Cub, and Tony is the official IG of Tony.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah. And there's a period in between each one of those, because I'm terrible at Nick. So the period official, yeah, the official IG of Tony with a bunch of periods in the
Bunch
middle.
of periods. Okay. So yeah, find us there and on YouTube, and we'll see you guys next time.